Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It is brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone today, Jack Myers with Social Security. Morning, Jack. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Doing okay. Kind of fretting over this Mets game tonight. Probably the biggest postseason game we've had in a decade.
Yeah, well, and it kind of lined up with the other series that you kind of have center stage tonight, so
Little
you don't
bit.
have to worry about a midday game.
You know what? And leave it to the Mets to be the only team not to put a series away in 2 games. Leave it to them. So, and probably.
Well, in their defense, they did have a kind of a rougher path to get in this week, so we got to give them that, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It was a wild week for them. Now that you mention it, going back to the hurricane last week with the rescheduling and everything. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. So it was nice though. I told you off the air there. I went to the game on Tuesday, which was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, sitting there watching that game, if you would have told me Luis Severino was going to go 6 innings that game, I'd ask you how much beer you'd been drinking, because that he couldn't get a guy out. It was unbelievable. So
that's funny.
Anyways, it was a good time. But Jack, let's dive into all things Social Security here this morning, and let's talk about kiosks for customer check-ins. If I'm not mistaken, I think we've mentioned this in the past. If we have not, introduce us to this topic. What's this all about?
Yeah, so in the past we have talked about our customer check-in process, but we focused a little bit more on the mobile check-in process. So this is something, if you choose not to use the mobile check-in process, which you would do via your mobile phone and QR codes you can scan outside our office. But if you choose not to take advantage of that, we do have the check-in kiosks within the front doors of our offices. And we've had those for a while, but we've just recently upgraded those. We're always striving to make sure that our services are more accessible while maintaining people's privacy. And so these new kiosks are a good step in that direction. Of course, they're private and easy to use without assistance. The Americans with Disability Act, ADA compliant kiosks will include things like accessible keypads, audio headphone jacks, along with complimentary headphones upon request, Braille instructions for how to use the kiosk and report any accessibility issues, and then they have little built-in printers to give you your ticket. They're enhanced 508 compliance, which is for visual impairments. The touchscreen monitors have privacy filters, so when you're off behind them or to the side of them, they're harder to see. It's really more so for that one person that's using the kiosk. So again, these are new to our offices. We've had the kiosks for a while, but these are just better. We had some issues with accessibility with some of the old ones, and so those are addressed with the new ones. But again, like we talked about, we still have that mobile check-in process, and if you can do that, that is a great option. But if you'd prefer not to use the mobile check-in process, we've got these new kiosks in most offices, so you can use that when you get in the door.
Easy enough. And Jack, let's talk a little bit about. You mentioned once you do get into the office and you can do that. You mentioned, or I think what I was thinking about was the mobile check-in, express check-in process. How about that side of things and what that brings for folks coming to Social Security?
Yeah, I really like that mobile check-in process. One of the things, regardless of what type of kiosk we have in an office, and this is, I think, probably a little bit more of an issue first thing in the morning when our office is open. After that, it's a little bit more of a flow basis. But when our office opens first thing in the morning at 9 a.m., everybody who needs to use the check-in kiosk, which is everybody that's coming into the office, because everybody's got to check in, there kind of is a little bit of a log jam there because a line forms and you got to get to the kiosk. And if you take advantage of the mobile check-in process, you can do that outside the building before the doors open. So there's a QR code. We've got signage outside the building. You have to activate your location services on your mobile device so it knows you're here, so it allows you to check in. Then when the doors open, you will already be checked in. So basically, you'll go right to the counter to be served. You don't have to wait in that line for the kiosk. And it's kind of, the advantage is twofold. Number one, you get up there right away. Number two, as the weather starts to get a little bit colder here, I know we're still in that nice fall part of the season, but before long, it's going to be pretty cold these mornings. And if you take advantage of the mobile check-in process, you can sit in your car and wait. You don't have to stand in line because you've already got your spot reserved by checking in via your mobile device.
Jack, what are wait times like at a Social Security office?
They're going to vary location to location and honestly day to day. I don't have that information right off the top of my head, so I can't speak exactly to it accurately. But I know it hasn't been. I will say this: for the most part, I'm based out of the Springfield office, so at our office here, I don't think it's been too terribly bad. I mean, people can get in and out pretty quickly. We have all these online services at ssa.gov that we offer that have really reduced the number of reasons a person has to come into the office. I think that's helped. We do a lot of things over the phone as well. So the waiting times, to my knowledge, aren't terrible. But of course, we're a large government agency. We deal with people all over the country and actually, frankly, all over the world. But our field offices are in the country here. And in bigger cities, I'm guessing that the wait times are going to be a little bit longer. It's all part of our overall customer service picture, and I assure you we're looking at all of it. We're looking at wait times on the phones. We're looking at wait times in the office and trying to do whatever we can to improve that service to the best of our ability. We do have something on our website. It's not going to necessarily address that especially, but it's called Security Stat. So if you go to ssa.gov, we've started putting out some information about where we stand with different things like processing disability claims and stuff like that. So it's really interesting data that has not really been available for all that long. But when you have access to it on the website, it's kind of nice to look at it and see. And it's even down to the state because our states make the disability determinations for us. So the time that it takes to get a decision will vary from one state to the next, and you can see that right there on the ssa.gov website in the security stat section.
All right, very good. Well, I was just curious on that, Jack. I didn't know if wait times were especially Central Illinois. I don't imagine they're, I don't want to say extravagant, but they're probably not super long. I was just kind of curious what like in your office particularly, like maybe what a typical wait time is. But at any rate, anything else on that, Jack? Two great services, for folks that are, tech savvy and they can take advantage of these, or maybe an older individual that isn't so much tech savvy, maybe bring a grandson or granddaughter with you and have them help you out. But two great processes to speed things up for folks.
Absolutely.
Very good, Jack. Jack Myers, Social Security, our guest on the phone today. Let's talk about, Jack, important changes in Social Security benefits and why folks need to inform Social Security of those changes. How about some of these things?
Yeah, when you get Social Security benefits, there is a way that you can help us make sure that we pay you the right benefit each month, because that's our goal. We want to pay the right benefit to the right person at the right time. But there are certain changes that affect your eligibility for benefits. Maybe they mean that you should be eligible for more money. Maybe it means you should be eligible for less money or not eligible at all because of a change. But it's important for you to report certain types of things to us so that we can make sure you're getting the right amount. One of the big things that I'll focus on here this morning would be different types of relationship or other life changes that could affect your eligibility for Social Security retirement benefits, survivor benefits, or Social Security disability benefits. You and your family might miss out on additional payments if you don't report changes to us in a timely manner, or like I mentioned, not reporting changes to us could, on the flip side of that, create an overpayment that you would have to pay back to us. So we don't want you to miss out on anything. We don't want you to get overpaid. So here are some of the things that you would be wanting to report to us. marriage or divorce, death of a spouse or a former spouse, becoming parent of a child, and this would, of course, include adoption, marriage of a child who is getting benefits on your record, and then if a child who gets benefits on your record no longer lives with you, you want to let us know where they've gone to and how to contact the adult or organization who cares for them now, because there's a possibility that you're getting benefits because you have that child in care. And if they're not with you anymore, that could impact your eligibility. In addition to that, you might be representative payee for that child. So the money might be coming to you on their behalf. But if they're living with somebody else who's in potentially a better position to help them manage their needs, we might want to shift that over to that person that's caring for them then. So
Yeah.
just a few examples there.
Yeah, and so I venture a guess then, Jack, that this may impact some of these things you mentioned may impact the benefits that an individual is getting. I know you mentioned that a little bit. Can you speak further to those things a little more?
Yeah, I can. So let me look at one of these bullet points, which was death of a spouse or a former spouse. That's a great example because that's inevitable, right? I mean, nobody gets out of this thing alive. So we're always dealing with that, unfortunately. And the significance of that is if you're getting retirement benefits, because when you filed for your retirement benefits, your own benefit was higher than one half of your spouse's, okay? So that's how spousal benefits work. In that scenario, you would get yours and your spouse would get theirs, and there wouldn't be anything you would be due on their record. But if theirs was higher than yours and they pass away, now all of a sudden you are potentially eligible if you're old enough, and if you were getting retirement, you would be old enough. You're going to be eligible for an additional benefit on their record, most likely, as a survivor. So you'd want to get in touch with us and let us know that spouse had passed. Now, a lot of times, in the state of Illinois and in many states, we get electronic death records. So when a death certificate is filed, we get that notification, and so that serves to stop the benefits to the deceased individual, but it does not give us any kind of information about you as a survivor. So it's very important that you get in touch with us so that we know you would be eligible for survivor benefits and you apply for that so that you can get that higher monthly benefit that you are eligible for.
Very good. Well, Jack, how do folks get a hold of Social Security to make sure that they inform you folks of those changes?
Yeah, multiple different ways to do it, Seth. Of course, we've got our local offices, so you can find your local office by going to our locator, which is ssa.gov/locator. If you would prefer to just call our national 800 number, that's available from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and that phone number is 800-772-1213.
Jack Myers, Social Security, is my guest on the phone here for this morning. We'll take a break. More to come with Jack on The Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check the markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLos Yonke. A lower opening today for corn and soybeans. December corn down 1 3/4, 4.30 3/4. March down 1 3/4, 4.48 1/4. July down 1 1/2, 4.62 1/4. Corn has started the week with a 3-day winning streak. November soybeans down 8 3/4, 10.47 1/4. Jan down 8 1/2, 10.65 3/4. March down a dime, 10.78 3/4. Soy meal December down 6.80, 3.30, 3.60. Soy oil for December up 22, 43.86. Wheat starting a little bit higher again. December Chicago up 1 3/4, 6.17. KC up 3 1/4, 6.22 1/2. Minneapolis down 2 1/4, 6.46 3/4. RFD Radio Network.
Here's Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson on Fighting Inflation 2024.
We are very strategic about our pricing. The other thing is you almost never have to wait to get checked out. And on top of that, we don't make you be the cashier either. We try to make sure in order to grow, you have to have labor. So we make sure we have enough people to do the job. And in order to absorb the growth that we've experienced for 24 years straight.
Dave and his staff help you save up to 40% on your food bill every day at your Clinton Save-A-Lot. And as Dave always says,
Hope to see you soon.
Are you wanting to learn more about your health and wellness options in Central Illinois? Visit stealthwellness.com or click on my banner ad at DeWittDailyNews.com. Let me, Dr. Bill Byers, show you some simple, under-the-radar ways to improve and take control of your health.
ConnectSys will provide local, reliable, affordable, and speed-of-light fiber internet to Clinton. Get on the install list now by clicking the ConnectSys icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Fiber internet is coming to Clinton. Get on the install list now.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Jack Meyer, Social Security, is my guest on the phone here for this morning. And Jack, let's dive into, I want to kind of jump down on your topic list here and dive into a little bit about the recent changes to SSI installment payment policies. What's going on here? What's this all about?
Yeah, so that's that's kind of a bit of good news for folks. So to give you a little bit of background on what this is all about. So at our Social Security offices, we administer the Social Security programs that are based on the payroll taxes that you pay during your working years. But we also administer the SSI, Supplemental Security Income Program. Now, SSI payments are also based on federal tax dollars, but they don't come from the Social Security tax dollars. They just come from, general federal income taxes. And there's no work requirement in order to qualify for SSI. You have to have a disability that would qualify you, or potentially be, 65 or older and be low income, limited resources. So there's a needs-based component to this SSI program. And so basically there are policies or laws that require us to issue back pay when applicable in installments. So if you apply for SSI benefits and you are eligible for back pay, we can only pay so much of that SSI back pay at a time. And that rule is basically limited to 3 times whatever the current federal benefit rate is. So right now, the maximum amount a person can get from SSI per month in Illinois is $943. So if you're eligible for back pay, the most SSI, and again, this is SSI only, not Social Security, the most SSI back pay we can issue at a time is 3 times that, or $2,829. So basically, if you're due more than that in SSI back pay, we can't release it all at once. We're required to release it in installments. And the way that these installments work is they've got to be spaced 6 months apart, at least the first 2. So we can issue you the first back pay installment of $2,829, but then we have to wait 6 months before we issue the next one. And then if there's still money left over to pay, we have to wait another 6 months before we can then release the remaining installment. So, in some situations, people are waiting quite a long time there to get all of that SSI back pay. There are, of course, some exceptions to the installment process. If a person has a terminal illness that's expected to result in death within a year, we don't have to wait for those installments. Or if you're no longer going to qualify for SSI because of a change in your income and you're expected, like, for example, maybe you only get SSI back pay and now you're eligible for Social Security that's too much for SSI, we wouldn't have to do the installments. But for a lot of people, you're dealing with those installments. So what has changed recently is in a lot of circumstances, we're now able to pay more of the back pay in the first couple of installments if a person has certain debts and expenses. So basically, the qualifying debts and expenses, if you tell us that you have debts for food, clothing, and shelter, including expenses necessary to provide a place to live, medically necessary services, supplies or equipment or medicine, a car, mobile phone or computer, or expenses related to some of those things like medically necessary service, supplies or equipment, housing stability. If you can tell us that you have those sorts of things, we can issue more than that 28.29 if you have that available to you in back pay, and just help you meet some of those current expenses or help you pay back some of those debts. Because a lot of times in those situations, people have incurred debts because family members have helped them while they've been trying to get the benefits. And, you'd like to pay that money back to people because they helped you, they loaned you money, they did things for you while you needed it. So being able to pay that back is important to a lot of folks. And this recent change in the installment policy will allow us a little bit more freedom to issue that money out to you in the early going there.
Very good. Jack, anything we missed on that topic you want to put out there for us?
Well, basically the way that you would go about requesting this is you'd want to have a specific, it's got to be a specific type of request. You can't just give us a blanket, I need all my money. You got to have kind of your ducks in a row in terms of how much you're asking for and what your expenses are. But basically that's the only requirement is you got to know how much you want, why you want it, and you got to communicate that to us. So that's your side of this in the way to get that additional money in the early installment process.
Easy enough. Again, Jack Myers, Social Security, our guest on the phone today. Jack, a couple of minutes yet still with you, sir. Rather than dive into a new topic and have to cut us off halfway there, talk to me about what's kind of kept you busy lately. Anything on your plate that's of note for folks?
Yeah, just looking at some of this stuff like we've talked about, some of the new things. One thing I will mention, since we've got a little bit of extra time, when we were talking about the changes to report to us, remember I was talking about relationship-based changes. There are other changes, of course. That wasn't an all-inclusive list. So a big thing that I think people need to be aware of is if you're getting disability benefits and you go back to work, you always want to report that to us. If you're getting Social Security benefits and you start to get a pension that's based on work that wasn't taxed by Social Security, you always want to report that kind of stuff to us as well. And then again, as I always talk about with you, Seth, we've got a whole host of information on our website. So if you go to ssa.gov, you'll find out all kinds of information. You can create a My Social Security account for yourself while you're there. You can do a lot of business through that My Social Security account. So it's a great thing to take advantage of.
Jack, it's always good to talk to you, sir. You bring great info as always. We appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Jack Myers, Social Security, our guest on the phone here for this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. Network news comes your way now on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM W293 DJ Normal Bloomington.
From townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. A massive relief and recovery effort is underway in the southeast. Many remote communities still cut off in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. The storm's death toll is approaching 200 across a half dozen states.
Locals